Covid longa, 5 anos depois, o que aprendemos? Explora as realidades surpreendentes da Covid longa 5 anos após a pandemia.
All right, so today we are going deep on long COVID.
Oh, wow.
5 years, can you believe it?
5 years later? Yeah.
Since the pandemic was declared.
Really is.
Yeah, so we've got some really interesting articles.
Cool.
Personal stories, research updates, even some statistics to really give us an idea of what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
And, it's been a while since that initial panic.
Right.
So I was really curious to see what we've actually learned about what it's like to live with long COVID and where the research is at now. And I got to say, some of what I read was pretty surprising, even unsettling.
Yeah, it is remarkable, isn't it? 5 years on, and there are still so many unknowns with long COVID.
Right.
It really highlights how much we have yet to learn about the long-term consequences of this virus.
Totally. And it's not a quick bounce back for everyone.
No.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
The UCSF article defines long COVID as symptoms that last for at least 3 months after the initial infection.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It's not just a cold that hangs on. We're talking over 200 documented symptoms, according to this UCSF article. And the CDC backs this up in a Yahoo News piece.
Yeah.
It just shows how different it can be from person to person.
Absolutely. And that is one of the greatest challenges, I think, with long COVID.
Oh, for sure.
Is that it's not a one-size-fits-all condition.
Totally.
Some people experience primarily respiratory issues, whereas others might have neurological symptoms or even a mix of both.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a cough or fatigue. We're talking debilitating fatigue.
Yeah.
One person even described it as bone tired all the time.
I've heard that too.
Can you imagine just feeling drained no matter how much you rest?
Oh, gosh.
And then there's brain fog, which just sounds awful. One person said it was like wading through shoulder-high mud.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, that's some serious cognitive impairment.
It is. And that's one of the things that I find most fascinating about long COVID research, trying to understand the mechanisms behind these really diverse symptoms. Like, why does the virus affect certain people this way and not others?
Right.
What is actually happening at the cellular level?
Right.
There's still so much that we don't know.
So we've got bone-tired fatigue and brain fog. What else?
Well.
The articles also talk about dysautonomia.
Yeah.
And I even had to look this one up.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically your autonomic nervous system going haywire. So things like heart rate, blood pressure, digestion,
Right.
all that can get out of whack.
Oh, wow.
You know that feeling when you stand up too quickly and get that head rush?
Yeah.
Some people with dysautonomia experience that kind of dizziness and lightheadedness all the time.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the loss of smell and taste, which we heard a lot about early on in the pandemic.
Right, right. And what's interesting is that all of these symptoms, as varied as they are, they often occur together.
Oh, so you could have someone dealing with the fatigue and brain fog and dysautonomia.
Right, all at the same time.
All at once. Can you imagine trying to get through your day with all that?
Wow, it would be.
It's hard to fathom.
Yeah.
That's where the personal accounts really hit home.
Right.
Like this guy, Ed Hornick, whose story is in that Yahoo News piece.
Okay.
He's been battling this for 5 years.
5 years?
And his experience is just, well, eye-opening.
Yeah.
He was initially misdiagnosed with walking pneumonia.
Oh, wow.
So he's dealing with all these symptoms, but nobody knows what's going on.
Right.
It took him months to get a long COVID diagnosis.
Oh, gosh. It's a common theme, unfortunately. Early on, there was so much confusion.
Yeah.
And just a general lack of awareness surrounding long COVID.
Totally.
Even medical professionals weren't always equipped to recognize it or diagnose it properly.
It's pretty crazy how far we've come in just a few years, though, right? Like we're actually having this conversation. But his story really shows how much those early misunderstandings impacted people. Even after he got the diagnosis, he was basically left on his own to figure things out.
Oh, wow.
He talks about all these doctor's appointments and trying different treatments.
Right.
Just looking for anything that could help.
Yeah.
He's even enrolled in research studies at Johns Hopkins and Mount Sinai.
Oh, wow.
Hoping to contribute to finding answers.
Well, that's the thing with long COVID, right? There's no magic cure.
Right.
The Yahoo News article goes into some of the research.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, but it's so complex.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking at everything from autoimmunity and chronic inflammation to even the possibility that the virus could be lingering in the body somehow.
Oh, wow.
There's even a theory about microclots in the blood.
Really?
It's like this huge medical puzzle, and researchers are trying to put all the pieces together.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that Even with all of our scientific advancements, we still have so much to learn about the human body.
I know.
And how it interacts with viruses like this.
Absolutely. It really underscores the importance of research.
For sure.
And funding for this research.
Totally.
The UCSF article highlights Allison Cohen, who's an epidemiologist, but also lives with long COVID.
Oh, wow.
So she brings this very unique perspective, describing it as an energy-limiting condition.
I see.
And she uses this analogy called the spoon theory to explain it.
Oh, the spoon theory. I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah, it's such a powerful way to illustrate those invisible struggles of chronic illness.
It is. It really is.
It's like you start each day with a limited number of spoons. Representing your energy. And every activity, even simple ones like getting dressed or making a meal, costs you a spoon. People with long COVID just have far fewer spoons to begin with. So they have to be really careful about how they spend their energy each day.
It puts things into perspective.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you can look fine on the outside. But internally you're just struggling.
Yeah, you're struggling to manage your energy and cope with these really debilitating symptoms.
And Cohen brings up another really important point.
Okay.
Every time you get reinfected with COVID, it's another roll of the dice.
Oh, gosh.
You could end up with more severe long COVID or develop new symptoms altogether.
It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Especially with new variants constantly emerging.
Totally.
She mentions that she takes a lot of precautions to try to avoid getting reinfected.
Oh, wow.
Which, of course, impacts her social life and activities.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a reminder that even as the pandemic fades from the headlines, this risk of long COVID is still very real.
Yeah, for so many people.
Yeah.
And it's even more challenging because there are still no federally approved treatments for long COVID. Cohen mentions this in the UCSF article, and it's kind of a bummer.
It is, but despite the lack of a quick fix, research is advancing, and that's encouraging. Studies like the ones that Mr. Hornick is involved in are crucial for really understanding the underlying mechanisms of long COVID. And hopefully coming up with some effective treatments.
Okay, so speaking of understanding the scope of this whole thing, our long COVID in America source has some really shocking statistics.
Okay, let's hear it.
Get this. 1 in 5 U.S. adults have experienced long COVID at some point.
Wow, that really highlights the massive scale of this issue.
Yeah, and even though the percentage of people currently experiencing long COVID is declining, it's still millions of individuals dealing with these long-term effects.
Millions.
It's easy to get lost in the numbers.
Yeah.
But each one represents a person.
Exactly.
Like Hornick or Cohen.
Yeah.
Someone facing daily challenges, trying to manage their symptoms. Navigating a healthcare system that is still trying to catch up.
And the impact is beyond individuals. You know, it affects workplaces.
Oh, for sure.
Families, communities.
Totally.
The source points out that long COVID is contributing to labor shortages and increased healthcare costs.
That makes sense.
It's really a public health crisis with huge consequences.
So we've talked about the symptoms and personal stories. The research and the sheer size of the problem. But here's what I keep coming back to.
What's that?
What can we, as individuals and as a society, do to support those living with long COVID? Especially considering there's still so much that we don't know and treatments are limited.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Like, what can we do?
Yeah.
It's something that Allison Cohen, you know, that epidemiologist we were talking about, who also has long COVID. She really grapples with this in the UCSF article.
Yeah, she talks about the need for a collective effort to reduce the risk of reinfection.
Yes.
For everybody, not just those who already have it.
Exactly.
It's those things we all got used to during the pandemic, like masking up in crowded places and staying home when we're sick.
They
might seem like old news now, but they can make a real difference in preventing new cases.
Absolutely. And I think it's also about kind of shifting our mindset a little bit. You know, recognizing that long COVID is real. And it's serious.
It's not made up.
It's not something people just made up, It's about really fostering empathy and understanding for those who are struggling.
Even just checking in on friends or family or colleagues who might be dealing with long COVID. Offering support, like helping with errands, childcare, even just listening. Those things can be so meaningful.
Absolutely. And on a larger scale, we need to be advocating for more research funding.
Yes.
Better access to specialized care for these patients.
For sure.
And policies that protect people with long COVID in the workplace and in healthcare settings.
It's a good reminder that this isn't just about individuals.
Right.
It's about our communities and society as a whole.
Exactly. The ripple effects of long COVID are being felt everywhere.
Yeah.
And if we don't address this, the economic and social consequences are just going to get worse.
I think what's most important is that we approach this with hope.
Yes.
And a willingness to learn and adapt as we go.
I agree.
It's complex, but we're making progress.
We are.
We've definitely uncovered some heavy stuff in this deep dive.
Yeah.
But the research is moving forward.
Right.
There are more resources available now than there were even a year ago.
That's true.
And there's a growing community of people with long COVID who are sharing their experiences and supporting each other and advocating for change.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Totally.
But by staying informed and engaged and working together, we can create a future where long COVID is better understood, better managed, and hopefully one day preventable.
I love that.
Me too.
That's it for our deep dive into long COVID. 5 years on.
5 years on. Wow.
We hope you found this information insightful, maybe even challenging, but ultimately empowering.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power, right?
It is.
So use what you've learned today to spark conversations, raise awareness, and make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.